Thank you very much to the organizers, the National Research Fund of Bulgaria and to Urban Europe for creating this opportunity to gather researchers from different parts of Bulgaria, from different Bulgarian universities and scientific institutions, to join forces in a discussion about the urban future. So, not to lose too much time, I would like to start by sharing information about a research. That was not a research, but that was a cost action investigating sustainability, but sustainability understood as a cultural sustainability. As a result of this 3-year joint action, there was a series of publications. I will just now point to 2 of these publications. The one is the conclusions of the cost action, culture in, for, and as sustainable development. I see that it is almost invisible, the title of this presentation, but it is accessible in the internet. And actually, briefly, there has been presented 3 different roles how culture is related to sustainability and sustainable development. In the first picture, the left figure, culture in sustainable development. The culture is thought and presented as a separate sector of activity, like cultural industry or cultural quarter, creating a brand to a place and attracting tourists. Just imagine the cultural quarter Etera in Gabrovo attracting tourists and developing different kinds of activities based on traditional knowledge. The middle figure with the yellow circle, this is the culture, obviously. The culture is thought as a mediator for the other 3 main columns of sustainability or pillars of sustainability: economy, ecology, and social equity or social justice. Culture is the mediator. Culture provides discussions, and as a matter of fact, this is what happens now in this hall. Because we all share some common visions about how our future should be changed and how the urban future should be directed through research and through political actions. For this reason, I think this is a cultural thing, this mindset that brought us together here in this hall. Because of this mediating role of culture, the 3 main pillars of sustainability are joined together. And the last picture, that is culture as sustainable development. This is thought as a culture as an enabler, culture as creating a special mindset and enabling environment, culture as institutions that respond to certain degree of development and to certain standards of functioning, for example. So we have these three different roles, how culture can be interpreted. But the least is culture as arts plus, because usually people think culture is about arts, not only about arts. It is our mindset, it is our patterns, models of thinking and actioning. These are our values, the values that we share, the values that make us react in certain way in certain situations. And for this reason, it is a very important topic, because if we are sensible about and sensitive about this topic, in this case, we shall understand why in some parts of Europe the urban topic is so advanced in research and in public discussions, and why some things happen, for example, in Northern Europe or in Western Europe, and do not happen in Eastern Europe. Culture is important. So one of the results of this cost action was a book series presenting different aspects of the relationship between culture and sustainability. And the book number one in this book series was devoted to European cities, imagining Europolis. And the book was edited by myself, Professor Milena Dragišević-Šešić from the Belgrade University, and Nancy Duxbury, who is a Canadian working for a Portugal university. So the important message of this book is that there is a huge potential and still unused potential in the role of small and medium-sized cities, which dominate the urban landscape. Although, of course, there are a lot of discussions that I am just skipping. The discussion about how small should be the small cities, because the bottom line is different for different countries. How big is the middle-sized cities, and when the middle-sized city is transformed into a big or super big metropolis. So these are a lot of discussions behind these just few notes, but still I will spare your time and our time. And I would like to point to another important publication of John Hawkes, which this year, in 2021, makes 20 years since its publication. It is important because it is the book that is very influential, and the title, Culture as a Fourth Pillar of Sustainability, Culture's Essential Role in Public Planning. This fourth pillar of sustainability, culture as fourth pillar, this is a metaphor that really impacted our, or rather the public consciousness when thinking about sustainability. After this publication, it is not possible anymore just to skip off culture from the research agenda and from the public policies. Small and medium-sized cities, they turned out to be the backbone of the European economy, bearers of European heritage and culture, and for two reasons: because the majority of European urban population lives in small and medium-sized cities, and because the most of the European economy is based on this backbone of European small and medium-sized cities. The book presented a lot of trends, studied and outlined a lot of trends developing in the field of culture, of sustainable development. culture is perceived as economic field. After the collapse of industrial economy, when moving to post-industrial society, culture became the business of city, as noted by the American sociologist and urbanist Sharon Zukin. Culture is the business of cities for more than 50 years. Cities are competing for branding their images, for positioning their heritages, for creating more opportunities for tourists to share what is called experience economy. So, on the one hand, culture has been economized during the last 50 years. On the other hand, new trends appeared like artivism. These are urban projects, bottom-up urban projects that are aiming on the one hand to improve the cultural image of the city. On the other hand, they are aiming social integration of different groups, of quite often marginal groups, or of raising up the profile of the outskirts of the city. Different social aims, different social goals have been aimed with this kind of artistic projects, which are really getting more and more during the last 30 years. So this very special neologism, new word coined, artivism. And I myself coined another word, urbactivism. Urbactivism, because this artivism has been supported by a series of very relevant European programs. I will speak about this later. Also, we observe a participatory turn. More and more people are involved in the governance of cultural heritage. More and more people are acting not just as observers, but as participants and co-makers of different projects, which are on the one hand bottom-up, on the other hand they have been supported by European programs and have been financed by European programs. So this is a two-way process, which is very important and something specifically European, I would say, and common in cultural resources. So there was also a very important initiative, and I think that Professor Croci mentioned that the next summer school will be in the city of Aalborg. Actually there in Aalborg has been initiated the so-called Aalborg Charter in 1994, and that was the first global initiative for sustainable development on local level. And just two very important insights coming from this initiative. Broadly defining sustainability as the process of changing lifestyles, production, consumption, and spatial patterns, led by the long-term goal to base our standards of living on the carrying capacity of our planet. This Aalborg Charter is the first initiative of this kind, and it is initiative of European cities. And something also to me very important as an insight, it is, as it is noted in the Aalborg Charter, the city is the proper entity to tackle the problems of sustainable development, being both the largest unit capable of initially addressing the many imbalances damaging our modern world, and the smallest scale, at which problems can be meaningfully resolved in an integrated, holistic and sustainable fashion. Very important, and I think all these are our hints why urban Europe, why developing in this direction is very, very meaningful and very relevant to our situation. In the book Imagining Europolis, there has been delineated or outlined some sort of model of European model of sustainable urban development. But I would agree that there is no one-size model. This is certain, this is for sure. This model is characterized by the following trends. On the one hand, citizen towns and European citizen towns emerge as autonomous actors. They are acting as autonomous players on the political stage. They are self-aware of their strengths. Sustainability development is a continuous, multi-level, bottom-up and top-down process comprising cities and regions with different natural, economic, historical and cultural assets, among which the small and medium-sized cities predominate in terms of their numbers and the size of population living there, according to the results of some recent studies. This model relies on innovation and creativity for social purposes, based on new green values combining bottom-up and top-down processes and supported by European funding instruments such as Urban, Urbact, Leader, Leader Plus, Jessica, Jeremy, but also such culture-based programs as European Capital of Culture or European Heritage Label, to mention just few. European citizen towns enact participatory process involving various urban actors and serve as a transmission between various levels of support, local, regional, national and international. European cities acknowledge the priority of local sustainability-oriented solutions over universal one-size-fits-all formula. So every city has to find its own solution, but still it is following this kind of general trends. And they recognize and prioritize the long-term perspective of sustainability as a process. This is not one-time action. This is a long process, and this is a long-term struggle for development. I know that there is no time. Actually, I wanted to say how dramatically the whole situation has been changed overnight after the pandemic started. And actually, I will try to briefly present the trends. We observe something that we can call the end of liquid modernity, a critical situation for experience economy, travel, airport, transport, tourism, and because mobilities that have been declared to be the leading pattern of global civilization only 20 years ago, now mobilities have been halted, have been stopped, because they are moving risks, illnesses across the globe. We can say that what we observe now is actually some sort of repetition, a global rehearsal of what it is to live in a risk society. This very powerful concept of Ulrich Beck. Risks, according to Beck, are byproducts of our civilization. In the long term run, they turn globally universal, unpredictable, and inescapable. Sooner or later, they also strike those who produce or profit from them, because they occur around systematic causes, which coincide with the very motor of progress and profit. The global threat of COVID evokes new solidarity consciousness now, moving from solidarity of needs, as described by Beck in his book, solidarity of needs, typical for class society, to solidarity motivated by anxiety, typical of risk society. And actually, I use as an illustration to this slide a picture from an exposition in Beaux-Arts in Brussels in 2015 called A Brief History of Future, presenting all possible risks for our civilization. It was 2015, and you see a gas station among the jungle. It is still lighted by the self-generated energy, but there are no people. It is surrounded by a jungle. No oil, no people, resources are over. This kind of very influential metaphoric language of visual arts, of different kind of art, is also part of the mission of culture as a mediator for raising awareness about the issues of sustainable development. Yes, new type of solidarity I mentioned here, and it evokes a lot of positive responses, and the public sphere is really full of such positive responses. And as Antonio Guterres in April 2020 set a global appeal. He said our world forces, our world faces a common enemy, COVID-19. The virus does not care about nationality or ethnicity, faction or faith. It attacks all relentlessly. So we need mobilization of our forces and uniting our forces. So we expect that culture is going to change, but what will be this new normal? What are our hopes and challenges for the post-COVID world? This is a picture from June last year, when in Prague they tried to start the new life again, and this is a huge 500-meter table on the Charles Bridge. But this table does not exist anymore. The virus returned and everything started again. We faced a third wave of pandemics. So we have to be prepared for a different world, for a new normal. Even where the life started, it is at half capacity. These are information by BBC from Wuhan, but it is only half capacity of what happens now in the sphere of economy and in the sphere of culture. A lot of fears, a lot of challenges, but the greatest challenge in my mind is because there is no planet B. There is no plan B, there is no planet B. We need to reset the direction of urbanization. And resetting the direction of urbanization was one of the deepest insights of the very important report, Our Common Future, the so-called Brundtland report, the report produced by the Brundtland Commission, taking the pressure off the largest urban centers and building up smaller towns and cities, more closely integrating them with the rural hinterlands. So this, I think, is the really very interesting possibility for us to reset the direction of urbanization. And this is the moment. And as a matter of fact, in a recent discussion in America by Joel Kotkin and Richard Florida, in a recent discussion, they revealed that there is already a trend in America that the big cities in America are little by little emptied out, and people are trying to find their new homes in smaller urban settings. I will skip the discussion about the small and medium-sized cities, and I will just mention that Bulgaria, as the country with the fastest declining population and with 171 entirely depopulated settlements in 2020, for us this topic is really very hot. How to use these empty spaces, empty villages, empty small settlements, how to reuse them, how to restart the life there. So the last slide, these are the questions for research. The direction of social transformation of Central and East European small and medium-sized towns. You see on the left a picture from Mission Dolores Park at San Francisco in May 2021, but we can see similar parks and gardens in different European towns and cities, where there, maybe it is not very clear here in the picture, but there is a space for everyone, borders for everyone. Not only societies are rebordering themselves, but also people are getting used with these new borders of privacy, of publicity. New kind of sociality is emerging. So the possible topics about public space as a last resource, the vacant settlements and vacant buildings, how to reuse them. There is positive experience, very good examples coming from Northern Europe, from Western Europe. We have already some good examples, but still this is a pandemic issue. A pandemic issue not in terms of illness, a pandemic issue in terms of a phenomena that is spreading and that is not really tackled with the proper means. I already mentioned about this existential crisis of experience economy, transport, tourism, cultural and creative industries. Obviously, culture also is challenged, and new models are needed in order to restart the life. The digital turn, the opportunities and risks. The green energy. Green energy is not only something that produces more sustainable electricity and more sustainable ways of life. Green energy is producing also new forms of sociality, new forms of solidarity. In Germany and in Northern Europe, there are a lot of cooperatives created based on the production of green energy. People are uniting their financial sources in order to produce green energy. Cooperative movement is something new. Finally, the status of everything that cannot be digitized, it will be reappraised, including the manual lower income labors. There is data already that for the first time in 30 years, the manual lower income laborers started to get paid more and better. And this means a change. Finally, I think that we need to have a very deep discussion about the indicators to measure sustainable development, because these indicators have been created in a situation of non-COVID crisis, a situation of very quick and still intensive development. Now we need to rethink the indicators and to create not only a new system of indicators, but also new language, because sometimes we are using the same word but we mean different things. Sometimes the words sustainability and sustainable development are just empty signifiers. So we need to share ideas, to create a common language, and to create new set of indicators to measure this new kind of sustainable development. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Hristova.